Welcome, everybody. We're here for the second artist visit from Dorian Vallejo, who was here with us about 3 weeks ago. And we had a marvelous session where he discussed how he puts his sketchbook process to work for a long-standing professional artist who supports himself by the work that he does. And that's not very common for people who are practicing art. So it's a great privilege to have him here with us. And he interacts so well with the student.
Varun Davini, tell me a little bit about your drawing.
Oh, well, there's not much to it. There's an animation studio I really like, and I wanted to try to draw me and my friend in the style. So, yeah.
Is that Studio Ghibli?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love their stuff. Hayao Miyazaki is pretty amazing. So do you like anime in general?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So what other movies do you like? Is that the only one, or is it... Hey, I have a question for you. Studio 4C, do you know their stuff?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, write it down. It's good. You'll like their stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I love anime as well. So super cool stuff. Do you collect comic books or manga or any of that stuff as well?
No.
Okay. Well, so is anime a big part of what you're doing, or is it just something you're playing around with and it's kind of fun and you do like 100 other things as well?
Yeah, more like that. It's not the only thing I do. I don't do it that much, but I wanted to try practicing.
Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Well, let me ask you, do you have any questions for me? Can I help you in any way?
I mean, how do you, like, when you're I mean, do you experiment with new styles? Because I know you kind of have one developed, but do you still, from time to time, practice new ones?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. And, you know, okay, I don't know how old you are, like grade 6, grade 10. I don't know what that is. 16, I was going to guess 15. You're asking such a good question, because when you look into future and you see like a lot of professionals, it looks like all they do is one thing. And a lot of professionals do that. They just do one thing. And I actually don't. So like yourself, I like playing around with a lot of different things, looking at a lot of different things, being inspired by a lot of different things. I like comics and anime and manga and movies, of course, but all different kinds of movies and sci-fi and fantasy. And it's like, to my mind, I think that you and I are singing the same kind of song, which is basically like, wow, there's so much exciting stuff out there. Why would you want to like settle on one thing? And so, yeah, that's a really great question. And I think actually it's important that you continue to experiment and try new things. And, you know, you'll probably find, which is what I have found, is like I might dabble in like 100 different things. And out of that 100, 20 are things that I find, you know, like really kind of interesting and I keep kind of close by. But out of the 20, maybe 6 are things that I really like to do a lot. And, you know, like drawing and painting and certain kind of subject matters and a certain kind of stylistic look that aligns with the way I think I'd like to explore it a little bit further. So there's, you know, here's an example. Maybe I'll try some abstract things. I don't particularly like abstract, and there's a philosophical reason why I don't, but I don't want to be so rigid that I won't try it. So I'll try it and I'll fool around with it. And but really what I like is realism. Now, in realism, you know, I like taking photographs, and I might, you know, do some paintings and drawings from photographs, and certainly that's a tool that I like very much. But I also like working from life. So those things start to narrow the focus a little bit more. You know, and then when I'm working from life or working from photographs or doing things realistically, there's some things that I find more interesting than others. I find people more interesting than, say, buildings or cityscapes, so, or florals or still lifes. So that sort of starts to narrow the focus even more. It's not like I won't do them, like I won't do cityscapes or landscapes or florals or still lifes. That ends up playing sort of like a background to the foreground of the figures and what I like to do with that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you've done here. It's nice drawings. You know, I'm sorry I can only see like 2 drawings because I'm sure you have a lot of other things that are really, really cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm sorry that we can't spend more time talking. It's just kind of lame that like to jump from person to person, but let's try it. So, hey, how do you say your name?
Vrindavani.
Vrindavani.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Kaylin.
Hi, how are you?
Am I saying your name right?
Yep, Kaylin.
Kaylin.
Yes.
Okay, this is pretty interesting. This is really cool. Tell me about
Thank
it.
I've been really into like tattoo design lately, so I'm thinking a lot about the flow of the composition and what I can do to improve my subjects and what objects I want to interact with them.
Yeah, yeah, this is neat. So one thing that I'm seeing that struck me kind of, well, both of these designs are super interesting. I like how you're taking something that's soft and feminine, and then you're adding something like dangerous, you know, and spiky.
Yeah.
You know, so the contrast I think would work pretty well for tattoos. You know, that kind of scorpion-looking thing, and then the flower.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so clever. Is that your own idea?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of like centipedes and stuff lately.
Mm.
And for my grandma's birthday, I've been drawing a lot of flowers, so I wanted to practice both at once, I guess.
Yeah, that's really clever. I mean, it sort of represents the kind of duality of existence, really. You know, like there's day and night, good and bad, and beautiful and ugly, and there's even parts of like our personality and our psychology that are like that. We have you know, the better angels of our nature, and then we also have like a dark monster that resides within. And what you're doing with these, by kind of juxtapositioning, you know, both of these elements, like, wow.
Thank you.
It's good stuff. Yeah, golly. And you're only what, 15, 16 years old?
16, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, keep doing more. Keep doing more. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, we've been practicing making backgrounds and environments in our drawings. And I was wondering, when you start making a composition like with a detailed background and everything, do you consider the environment after you consider what your main subject is, or vice versa? Like what what elements do you consider when making a background for the subject, I guess?
Kaylin, that's a great question. The background depends on what I'm trying to get across with a particular image. Let me try and be more specific about that. If I'm drawing a figure in an environment, right, like for one of my collector's edition drawings, or something that looks like it's a figure in the space that they live, then I'm actually not really pre-planning sketches or anything in advance. I will go to the person's location. Either it's a client who's hired me, or it's my girlfriend here in the house, or it's another friend and I've gone to their house. Yeah, so I'm trying to pay attention to, like, let's say you're at your house and you're watching your mother do things, and you know, you think, oh, look at that, she's cooking. This is something I've seen like 1,000 times, and the sun is coming in and it's raking across the kitchen, and it's coming up the side of the panels, and golly, the way that light looks. And that's so much a part of the everyday experience that most people, at least in America, can relate to, if not the rest of the world. I'll just say America because we have a kind of generalized experience here that we can all kind of understand. So that's how I kind of look at the environment, and I think that's that kind of poetic, beautiful scene that looks like something all of us are experiencing every day, but kind of just not really taking notice of. But the way the detritus of existence kind of centers us with all around us, and it creates an environment, and it's kind of spontaneous nature. There's kind of a messiness to like the way we have to go through life, even on this call right here, right? Like it's like nuts. So the audio's coming in, it's coming out, and but there's something kind of charming about the whole thing. There's no use in getting upset or wound up about it. And that's something about when I'm looking at the spontaneity of what life is offering us. That's how, the background sort of, and the setting kind of suggests itself, and that to me, like as an artist, how I might respond. And my role in that then is to be aware, to just be aware. Like some things are more interesting than others, and I think, oh, right there, that's it. Try and remember that. Draw it. Do a sketch of it. So that's one way. And then the other way. I'm sorry, this is such a long-winded answer.
Oh no, you're good.
The other way is if I'm planning something that either from memory and I'm trying to recreate it, because often the messiness of life doesn't come out perfect, and that spontaneous thing is not perfect, and it's, you kind of have to move things around and plan it, or you have an idea that you'd like to express, kind of like what you're doing now with these ideas. It's like, oh, I have an idea, I'd like to express something, and then I start planning out very much the way you're doing things here. It's like, well, okay, I have these ideas, and I start trying to composite them together and figure out what might work best in terms of the shapes, and to be able to sell the idea. And I don't mean sell it in terms of like money. I mean, make an image that other people find believable, they can buy into. They think, oh wow, whether it's a line drawing or a painting or something, that somebody else will look at it and they won't be disturbed by something that looks off. They'll be intrigued, and they think, oh, let me look at this a little bit more and try and figure out what's going on here. So that's how I plan those backgrounds. Does that help at all?
Oh yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
All right, cool. So I guess we'll move on to the next, since we have a lot. Jenna, are you online or in the class?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jenna, tell me about your horses.
Okay, so these weren't at all supposed to be anything special. I wasn't really expecting this, but I'm trying to eventually do sculpting, and I was trying to remember the anatomy of a horse without using a reference, because I found that I was pretty bad at it since 8th grade. So I've been trying my best to anatomize a horse from my mind. And on the one horse on the right, there's equipment. So I basically just try to make stuff up. And on the left is a horse that's rearing up, and it has flowers and stuff like that, shining from its hooves from the bottom. So it's
Very
supposed to
cool.
be mystic, but giant horses.
Thank you. I'm really impressed if you did these from your imagination. Most people can't do that with figures, let alone horses. I love it. And now sculpting. All right, so I'm going to ask a question. Are you wanting to sculpt from in reality with clay, or are you wanting to do it digitally, in 3D, in a 3D program? And why do you want to do it from imagination?
Well, the imagination is just for practice, so I can see how far I am without a reference, just to see. But I would prefer to do it in clay so I can keep it with me. and eventually, like, I don't think too far in the future, but like, you know, like when I pass away, I want like a figure of something that I did with me. So maybe something like that I can hold on to, just like a sculpture of a random horse. But eventually, I want to add muscle anatomy on the horses, because right now I'm just doing like figure, because I have to keep taking my time and going back and forth, and it's kind of hard.
Okay.
Getting on the face.
Okay. So, all right. So I have a couple of suggestions. One would be probably what you've been doing already anyhow, because it looks like you've either been working from reference and then trying to remember it. But that's what I would suggest. Get some books on anatomy. This will work well if you're trying to draw people or sculpt people or animals or whatever, and work from part to part and see how your brain is kind of able to process the information so that you can remember it. What I mean by that is, like, start with the head and maybe just start with like the eye of the horse. And so you'll draw it a couple of times and then see if you can draw it from memory. Then draw the eye, from reference, from a different angle. Then see if you can draw that from memory. I found for myself it takes about 6 to 10 times, and I just don't think that my mind is operating that well. But that's what it takes. It takes about 6 to 10 efforts for me to kind of put something into my memory so that I can recall it and use it and kind of start to move it in space and interpolate the different positions. So I've drawn something straight on, and I've drawn it 3/4 and underneath and above and to the side, and then I understand how the anatomy is working. And they have books on like horse anatomy that you can get too. And if you do that and you have a good understanding, then you can really start to turn it around in space and make the horse do what you want it to do. And there's some great horse painters and horse artists and horse sculptors. Yeah, I think that's what I would suggest. Start from reference first, and then add to it afterwards. Draw from memory afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's some like really, really useful information, because I haven't really thought like that, especially like starting from the head. Like I'm always starting like from the neck of the horse or like the backbone. And I found that usually makes me like elongate the body, or like end up making the legs incredibly long and ends up coming out like wonky. But I will definitely beg my mom to get me one of those like anatomy books, and I'll try to find some, because I remember looking at some like last year and it actually helped me a lot. But then I stopped drawing ever since like lockdown. Like I stopped doing my practice and everything, and I lost memory of like at least the basics of the anatomy. And each of these drawings were like 30 minutes, because like it was just like personal sketchbook work, and I don't really like do too much detailed stuff. But I'll get back into it just so I can like do better and actually get myself like actually encouraged to draw more.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple of suggestions related to that. First is, I don't know, you're in grade 10, 15, 16 again. Don't let the lockdown and everything that everybody's telling you about, like, oh, this is the worst time in the history of humanity. Like, there's all sorts of troubles that will come for the rest of your life that will happen outside of you that you have no control over. So don't let that throw you off course. In fact, a probably better strategy to adopt is to consider that you and everybody else is fully capable of handling whatever situation the world throws at us. Because if we look at things historically, well, look, we're still here, and things were a whole lot harder for us when we were in caves, and there were a whole lot less of us. So, it just looks like human beings and the human mind is, centuries, really thousands of years of evidence to prove that we're capable of handling any kind of challenge, and that includes you, to make the world a better place. So don't let the outside throw you off course. I think what you're doing with your horses and your study is amazing. You're really good. just stay focused and stay on your task. And now, regarding begging your mom to get you the book, you can find a lot of that stuff online for free. So even if you don't get the book, or you can't get it from the library, or, you know, again, I would not wait on the outside world to give you what you need. Ask your mind how you might get it now. And if it's not now, this minute, when you have a second to breathe. Certainly, you can do a search online for horse anatomy. And if you like starting with the neck, then start with the neck and learn that, you know. And then if you're having trouble with proportion, things look a little too long or look a little too short, don't rely on just eyeballing it. Look up horse proportions or human being proportions. And there are people that have had the same challenges that you have had, and all the answers are out there for free on Google. Like right now, you can do it and start finding the information that you want inside 30 seconds. So go to it, Jenna. The world needs you.
Thank you so much. I actually been like thinking about, like, even in general, like, how can I do things for myself, like in art and in life, and thinking of it like that, like to not wait for anyone else to like do it for me, even though like I really need people to help me out. That actually makes like a bunch of sense. So I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, do it. And so here's, I know we can't talk forever. But one way of thinking about this is that you don't need. Wait, just put your thing on mute, because the thing totally throwing me off. I can't even hear myself. Thanks. Sorry. It's just a weird microphone thing. All right. So one way of thinking about that is you don't need to see the full map ahead of you, as you know how you're going to get where you're going. You can ask yourself a question, and the next step lights up in front of you. Something will announce itself to you. Well, you know, the one step that you can make is better than sitting still and doing nothing. And if you need help from somebody, and you're like, well, okay, how can I articulate a question that might get me the answer that I need? And if that person can't help me, who else might? And so, you know, if nobody around you in the physical space, like either your teachers or your parents or your friends, have an answer, well, you know, there's the big wide web of Google and forums, and there's a library. There's just all sorts of information available to us. This is the greatest time in the history of humanity for us to be alive, to produce value for ourselves and the community that we live in. You know, you're going to do great things, Jenna. Like I can tell. So,
Thank you a lot.
You're welcome, Jenna. All right. So, Alex.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, hi, Alex. So, these are cool. This is really great stuff.
Thank you.
Man, I wish I was drawing as good as you guys, like when I was your age. Like I certainly wasn't. Tell me what's going on here. What are you interested in? This is really good stuff.
Thank you. I really like to do like character design stuff. So the character on the right is my alien species from this D&D campaign I'm doing with one of my friends, and we had to create like our own like alien species. So that's what I came up with. And then the characters on the left are just my friend's characters that I really wanted to draw.
Oh, they're really cool. Yeah, I would say just do more of that stuff. So they're characters for like character design, concept design for like, do you play a lot of video games and
Yeah.
just thinking that like it would be fun to just design characters for like movies or video games and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get you. That's just so much fun. Man, I wish I could see more of what you have there. Now, the characters on the left.
Ideas you have for someone whose work is right here at this stage in the sketchbook, to bringing it to full life and to creating a more finished, completed image out of that.
I missed the first part of the question about like is the
Sure.
question how I would what's the question? Sorry, Roger.
How best for the student to take a drawing from this sketchbook stage to a full completed work?
Okay. Is that in general or is that just for Alex?
I think in general.
Okay, well, so here's one way of, and so I keep prefacing things by saying, here's one way, right? And the reason why I say that is because, like, obviously I'm not omniscient and I don't have the answer for like how to do it all. It's just one answer by one human being, and this is my experience. And usually when people give their advice, they're giving it in the way that they would do it. But you know, eventually you have to figure out a way that you would do it that feels right for you, because why do you want to be copying me? Anyhow, so that said, here's my thoughts on that. The finish has to do with what you envision in your mind. So these characters, they could be finished in terms of, like, say the ones well, I'll talk about both things. The ones on the left, to me, look like they could go in a comic book or an animated like cartoon. They don't look like they represent the trajectory of what would land me in a finished, realistic painting. To that end, I would say, you know, like you could clean up the lines a little bit, which is obviously what you know, these are sketches, and you could work on your pen and ink work a little bit. So maybe you use a brush or whatever looks like the finished target of professional work that, you know, it doesn't have to be in color. Maybe it's going to be in color. So I guess one way of thinking about the finish is thinking about how you envision what a finish really is. Because, you know, there are finished cartoons in the newspapers and in books, and you know, ultimately the finish, I think, is something that represents an idea that people are willing to buy, so you make some money eventually and can put food in your mouth and a roof over your head. These kind of the level of finish that is sitting here right now is perfectly fine for video game concept work, and I'm guessing that you've seen a fair amount of that online, and that's about as finished as it gets. You know, like you can see more rendered things, you know, but like if somebody was going to make a 3D character for a D&D game, which is what this concept like is for, like it's almost like you have enough information right here. It could be done. If you wanted to finish it further, so I'm sort of tiptoeing all around this. It's like a game of semantics in a way of like, how do you, it depends on what you mean finish, what you mean by finish. Like, how are you defining it and how do you envision finish in your mind? And that's probably different for everyone. The finished product might be a video game, you know, and so maybe this step in the process is enough so that you can make a 3D model and then texture it and, you know, rig it and get it all set for, you know, a low poly character in a 3D model, depending on what the requirements of the game engine are. And it's a totally different scenario if what you envision is a comic book, and then a totally different scenario again if the comic book is either in black and white or color, or if you have like a painting. I mean, there's just like 100 different ideas of what finished looks like. And even a painting, you know, it could be a cartoony painting, could be like an impressionistic painting, it could be a super hyper real painting. So, all right, maybe that's enough. Alexander, is that at all helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so, but thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks. Cool stuff. Really neat. I like what you've got here. So, all right. Havana. This is fun, Havana. Tell me about it.
So for the left one, I was just kind of working on something that I think would be more stylized. I haven't been working in stylized that much, so I tried to be working on that. And then for the one on the right, I tried to work on something that was more like skill-based, like technically. I think that's on a level slightly important, so I tried to work on that, like also kind of like hyper-realism-ish, I guess. I never really had the patience to do that, so I tried to do it in the time that we had. On the bottom where the tape is, that's what I finished in class, and I believe in like 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. And then I finished it, and then I uploaded the finished piece to kind of give an idea of like what I was thinking about.
Okay, well, so now I have an idea for you, because you're trying two different types of styles, and I think that's, like, we spoke about that earlier a little bit. I think that's super cool that you're just experimenting and trying different things and starting to ask yourself, like, what feels good? What do I have the patience for? What do I like about this or that? What do you like? That's my question to you. You don't have to even have an answer either. Like, if you haven't figured it out, it's like, that's cool.
I really like painting, especially maybe like landscapes and still lives, also like compositional pieces probably.
So I think, like, do some more landscapes. So here's the thing that I'm going to suggest. When you're doing something, whatever it is, I just love how you started this thing off, where you're like, well, so I was doing this like technical because I think it's kind of important, but I don't really feel like I have the patience for it, and that whole thing, right? I like that, because that's the kind of question everybody should be asking all the time about whatever you're doing. And so this is how I do it. And it's going to sound like a little crazy, but whatever, it's my suggestion, then figure it out. Like, it came to mind because I liked what you said. So whenever I'm doing something, if I'm thinking about it, I rate it in my mind from a scale of 1 to 10. And I think, well, am I having fun with this? Is it a 5, or is it a 7, or is it a 3? Somewhere along that line, I'm thinking, like, how much fun am I having? So if I settle on something and I think, well, it's kind of like a 5, right in the middle, I'm like, well, could I make it a 6 or a 7? Is there something that I could do that would make this better for me, make the experience better? And it's like, if I'm hanging out with friends, if I'm watching a movie, if I'm, studying, if I'm doing something, I'm asking myself that question all the time. Like, what's my engagement here? And that's important, because, like, your life is important and it's limited. And, like, why would you want to spend it doing anything other than what you really like? Unless there's a reason. You can come to like things that you don't like, which sounds like a paradox. Like, here's an example. I don't know if you do, but, some people go to the gym, and it's, it's kind of torturous. They have a hard workout. Maybe they go running and they run as hard as they can. Now, if you had that experience and you didn't know you were at the gym, it would be pretty awful, with your heart racing and your muscles hurting, and you'd feel like something's desperately wrong here. And if you were being forced into labor, you wouldn't enjoy that either. The heart racing and the muscles pumping and all that, the blood and whatever, and the exhaustion afterwards. But some people do that and experience that, and they have fun, because in their mind, they are moving towards a vision of health. So, the patience required to do it, the commitment required to do that over time, is like towards a goal that they like. So I think that, with your artwork as well, you might be asking, well, I'm doing this, but I'd rather be doing landscapes. I get maybe when I'm rendering, this eye, it's okay. It seems like it's important, but I don't really care. And, like, yeah, I can render an eye, and, like, so what? Like, I'm copying a photograph, and, like, photograph did it already. Like, who cares? But when you're outdoors and you're painting, and you're trying to do something with your own hands and your own eyes, and you're trying to translate that, onto canvas or paper or whatever you're doing, you're like, this feels like a 10, or maybe it's a 9 or something, then it feels right. I think, like that's a good way of thinking about things, and then trying to ask yourself questions. If you're at 7 and you're outdoors, or you're only at a 6 and you're, painting landscapes, how could you make it a 7? Or if you have an experience that's like a 2, why? Or a 0, like, well, maybe it could be better, or it's really something you should not be doing, and you should be doing more of the things that you like, and then have a bunch of reasons like why that has meaning and purpose and value in your life, so that you can construct a life and artwork that has meaning, and ultimately project that out into the world so it has meaning for other people too. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
Maybe one. So I've heard people talking about using true black at all in a painting, even if it's just like a little bit. And I know some people use substitutes like Payne's gray, but what would you think about that? Just like using black in general.
That's a great question. I've heard that since I've been in school, and it was actually in college, in art school. And that was the first time I heard that. So it's amazing that you're asking this now in 10th grade. I started painting when I was 11, and I started using black, and I still use black. Black is a real color. Painting is difficult enough as it is, and it's not the technical aspects of it that are so challenging, and that is challenging enough, because it's always going to be a carrot that's held out in front of you that you can't quite reach. Your mind will conceive of something, and then, converting that to your arm and into your hand and out onto canvas won't fully match up with what your mind can do. So that's challenging enough. But coming up with ideas and then trying to translate them and make artwork, golly, that's so challenging that you don't need any impediments standing in your way. Black shouldn't even be a question. Like, use it. Yes, use it. It's a color. It will do things that other colors can't do, and it just makes life easier. Like, yeah, you can probably mix 2 or 3 colors and get some dark, mushy, brownish, blackish, grayish, whatever. But why? Like, just use the black and move towards the articulation of your vision.
Thank you. That helps.
Good. All right, Julia. Oh, fun. This is great. Oh my God, you guys have such fun work. Julia, tell me what you've got here. Tell me what's going on.
Okay, so basically I just kind of like practicing anatomy because I felt that I could benefit from that really. And the one on the left was kind of just like, I really liked the movie Rocky Horror, so I was just kind of like drawing art for that. But the one on the right is kind of just more like personal practice from like people in like magazines or like whatever. And yeah, there's not really much like deep meaning to it or anything. It's just kind of practice.
Practice is good. I feel like a good part of my earlier life was just like all about practice. And part of what went on in my head, like when I was a young person, was basically static. It just was not thinking very clearly. And all I really could do is practice. And so I think what you're doing, like, it doesn't have to be a great idea or whatever. Some things you like, and it's like, yeah, study that. Here's a suggestion that I think might help for you. Instead of doing drawings from magazines, pick out some artists that you like, and maybe start collecting. Maybe at first pick your top 5 artists. Let's just pick a number out of the hat, something, and then see what it's like. Because I'm just going to say these are drawings right now, so let's just talk about drawing, but you could do the same thing for painting, but maybe drawing's easier. See what their drawings are like and how they answer the same kind of questions that you're trying to resolve with your, with where you are in art. So like one thing might be anatomy, another thing might be like the quality of your line and how to resolve like perspective on the figure when the figure kind of like moves and tips and turns in space and looks up and looks down and is twisting and there's foreshortening and fingers. And so like you have some like hand things here, like on the full figure the hands aren't really showing, and they don't have to be, it's just a sketch. But then I see that you have a bigger hand, and the first finger looks like you paid a little bit more attention to it. Then the ring finger, or maybe like the pinky, started getting like a little wild. And that's totally okay. Like the bone structure underneath, like the fingernail on the first finger is pretty good. Like it seems like it fits in the bed pretty well. And the sensitivity to how you're actually observing and looking at things looks like you're paying attention pretty nicely. But it's using a lot, like when you get to the bones of the hands, looks like you might have run out of energy. And the reason why is because you're having to concentrate too much. And it's hard for the mind. It's like when you're reading a book, like you start concentrating and and you're reading for a couple of sentences, and then you've gotten to the end of the paragraph or two or three or the end of the page, and you're like, wait, what did I read? I kind of have to start over again. And that's the way the mind kind of works. So if you find some artists that you like and zero in and focus on maybe one drawing session is just the way they do eyes. And maybe it's only just the way they do eyes, like in profile from the side. And you're like, okay, got it. I think this artist, and I like, this is how they handle the eyes from the side, looking straight ahead, looking down, looking up, and I got it. And then maybe the next day you'll be like, well, let's see how they handle eyes in 3/4. Then let's see how they handle eyes in like front on. And you make a little file of that thing and you put it all together, and then that's your little study practice. And maybe you do that for 5 or 6 artists, and you go, huh, look at that. Artist number 1 handles eyes differently than artist number 6, and artist number 3 doesn't actually do eyes that well. Or maybe they all do them well, but they do them differently. And what will happen is when you start doing eyes, you'll start incorporating a little bit from artist number 1, a little bit from artist number 3, from 4, and you'll start blending everything together. You'll be able to see what they see, and then you'll start to see a little better. It'll teach you how to see. Then maybe you get onto the nose, you get onto the mouth, and you get onto proportion, and you get onto anatomy, and you can study each little thing in that way. So you don't have to really be paying attention fully to like you're using your eyes too much. Like even on the lady who's the dancer with the leotard, it's like you're sketch down the leg, or it's too much of an effort. It's like you're concentrating too much, and it might be easier for you if you just break it down, study a little bit what other people have done, put some visual vocabulary into your mental library, and then old master drawings, or just whoever you like, whatever appeals to you, if it's comic book art, if it's whatever, and then come back and then try and look at reality, and maybe not even at photographs at first. Not that photographs are bad, but do some from photographs, do some from life, try and see and utilize like what you learned and what you're seeing in the real world, and then try and see what comes out from that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, from what I've experienced and like people I've talked to, I thought it was like kind of looked down upon to use other artists for reference, but because they're like, oh, you have to be so original, you have to like copy from these photographs. But I think that could actually be really helpful.
Yeah. So a couple of words on that. First is the concept of originality is kind of, I wouldn't concentrate on it too much. It's a relatively new thing. You'll become original on your own the more you dive into stuff. You can't be original just like inside a little bubble, not being exposed to anything. And the concept of originality is one that starts to take place. God, I don't want to get too crazy about art history, but basically when people in art starts to reject the academy. And so the things, if you're drawing realistically, well, let me stop and I'll put a pin in that and I'll come back to it if I can remember. I don't get stuck in the weeds somewhere. We all learn to write by tracing over letters and then drawing in between the lines and having lined paper and making very clear symbols that for a letter A, a letter B, a letter C, and so on. And now you have your own handwriting, and it's only been, Jesus, like 10 years or so, because when was the first time you did that? Maybe like 5 or 6, and now you're probably like 15, 16. So, and now you have your own handwriting that's pretty darn original. It doesn't really look much like anybody else's. It's just yours. And maybe you have seen your mother write, or your father write, or somebody else write, and you're like, oh, that's a neat way of forming a J for my Julia, and a U and an L, and it can kind of all slant and flow, and it looks kind of beautiful. And that's how you're developing your style and your originality for your own handwriting. That's kind of maybe a good way of thinking about how you can do that with your artwork as well. Collect as much data as you possibly can. Don't worry. What happens with that project, to get back to what I was saying before, the project of rejecting the academy is really a project of rejecting Enlightenment principles. And the Enlightenment is the age of reason. It's what gives rise to everything that we have now, computers and television and rational thought and light and medicine and science and, yay for all that. On and on and on. But with every light, there's a dark, there's always opposites. There's a duality. So there's a rejection of that. And what you can see in modern art is the push towards originality is the rejection of rationality. And what you get ultimately is just scribbles, and craziness. And so that's original, but nobody knows what it means. And if you actually want to communicate and do something of value and put something into the world that other people can connect with, I'm going to suggest you have a better chance at doing that if you learn from other human beings who you admire. And the same way you learned your handwriting, like you learn it and practice and do what you love and do it a lot. And eventually you'll come out and you'll be original, and that'll be nice. But don't worry about it right now at all. Just practice.
Thank you.
All right, maybe we'll move on. Reese, this is fun stuff. Are you there,
Hi.
Reese?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Reese, talk to me. What am I? What's on your mind here?
So I'm a little bit embarrassed because both of these are really bad. It's not my best work. Anyway, but these are some of my D&D characters, the same as Alex, kind of, but a different campaign. Yeah, both of them are. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. The right one, I tried to do like a perspective thing and it didn't really work out very well. I'm used to doing like more digital art and being able to like manipulate stuff after I've already drawn it, but since I was drawing in pen, I don't know, I just kind of messed it up and then it rained on it and yeah, it was just kind of a mess. But yeah, I don't really know what to say.
Well, tell me a little bit about your digital stuff. So what do you like to do in digital? Is it 3D? Is it Photoshop? Or like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Um, I just like drawing. It's still 2D stuff. I use a digital program on my iPad called Procreate. A lot of people
Sure.
use it.
Hmm. Yeah,
I've
that's a cool program.
yeah.
All right. So I'm going to suggest, and I know this will sound crazy coming from me, who really loves like traditional media, but like if you like the digital stuff, like stick with that. I mean, tons of people are doing that, and it's fun. Do what you like to do. Like what I was saying earlier, it's like, yeah, if you find that you're sketching in your sketchpad or a sketchpad and you're just not having as much fun as you are when you're like messing around in Procreate, then stop it and do more Procreate. Like there's no the same thing that I said about like the color black. It's like there are no rules here. It's so hard to get out of your head something like a good idea and put it down and get it out into the world. Just use whatever tool you end up really, really liking and move towards, some vision that you have that you can be proud of what you're doing, and you don't have to say, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to contradict what I'm saying. You don't have to say, oh man, I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't really like this. I got rained on and the dog went to the bathroom on it. And, then like my mom threw it in the garbage and it was wrinkled and whatever, like you could do something that that you love doing. And if it's in Procreate, like just be aware of the experience that you're having when you're creating and try and make it a 10 and be asking yourself, like, what would make this a 10? What would, like, you want your life to be a 10. You don't want your life to be like some sad excuse that you're embarrassed about. Do some good work and be excited so you can actually get obsessed by it and do it more than anybody else does. So now that I've said that, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. Well, maybe a lot. I like what you said, and I think there's some utility in being a little bit embarrassed by your work. We're always going to be bad. It's better to do something bad than to believe that you've done something absolutely fantastic that's going to blow the world away. Just do something. And if it's not 100%, that's okay. At least 5% is better than 0%. I think these drawings are better than 5% of your effort. They might not be 100% of what you're proud of, but they're 100% better than 0. Your experiment in perspective is pretty cool. I like it. So maybe it's not like as good as the best thing you ever did. I don't know what that is. You have an idea in your mind of what that is, but from my perspective, and I'm going to suggest for you and for everybody else, doing something bad is better than not doing something at all, because that's 100% of 0. And you know what? You're not going to be great all at once, or what other people consider great. You'll get incrementally better. If you work your hardest today, you'll get 1% better. And if you work your hardest again tomorrow, you'll be lucky. Maybe you'll get another % better. And that's so small, you can barely notice the change, but you will notice it in 3 or 4 months. If you just keep putting in consistent effort and doing something, and you just get a little teeny tiny little bit better, in 3 or 4 months, you'll be a different person. And if you do that for a year, you'll be a completely different person. So that's 2 sides of what I heard you saying. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I think what you said was insightful.
Cool. Cool. That's great. I like what you're doing. So just do more of it. Do more of it. Next time, if we ever do this again, show me your Procreate stuff. I'd like to see that.
Thank you.
Alrighty. See ya. Ava or Ava. I guess it's Ava. I don't know. Tell me, Ava. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah, it's Ava.
Cool. This is really neat. I'm liking both things. Wow. Tell me what are you into here? What's going on? Tell me about yourself.
Both of these are drawings from this video game I've been playing for a while. And I was just like, I drew the monsters and the characters from the game because they have really cool designs. And I was like, I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much to like what I was saying like before, right? Just if you like something, just copy it. And I'd guess that if you do this for a while, it's just stimulating your creativity and your mind, and you're going to build up character. I mean, there's such cool stuff here. There's great character design. There's fun ideas, like it's a robot and it's whatever is going on. And it looks like it's got plants coming out of it and kooky eyeballs, and it's got like long arms, and it's like, wow, it's fun stuff. What game is this from?
It's called Genshin Impact.
Okay. Okay. It's got to be like, oh man, I really like it. I like what you're doing. Geez, I wish I could see more of your stuff. All right. I know there's a ton of people, and I don't even remember what time we're ending this at, but do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Do you like, all right, I have a question for you. It's just a random question, but like I asked it before, and so like I'm curious because I like your drawings. Are you into anime at all?
Yes, I watch a lot.
Good. Recommend to me like a movie that you love, or yeah, tell me your favorite one, or it doesn't even have to be your favorite. Just recommend something you think is super cool.
My favorite probably show is Demon Slayer.
Oh, what is it?
Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer. Okay, I haven't seen it, so yay! Now I get to see something. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alrighty, take care. Arlo, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Hiya, Arlo. Tell me about this. This is really cool. I like what you're doing with your colors and your watercolor and your line quality. Wow.
Thank you. So like the one on the left, I hadn't finished yet, but I was just blocking in the colors that would be underneath like all my layers, because I was just like only halfway through, and it was a 30-minute thing with the characters. I was going to make a comic, but I'm just like drawing the characters and not making the comic right now. The one on the right is just like concepts for a video game that I want to make.
Okay. Like, wow, this is really good stuff. I can't even believe you're doing this in 30 minutes. If you're really that fast and you're doing this in 30 minutes, and even if you're not, if you're doing it like in a longer period of time, I would suggest that you film your process and start making a YouTube channel, and then maybe like sell some tutorials on your ascent to fame, because you're really good, and you'll build a whole audience if you're not doing it already. This is great stuff, Arlo.
Oh, thank you. I thought about making one. I just hadn't like gotten to it. I kind of just draw in my sketchbook a lot anyway. So.
Yeah. I think there's people around the world that are going to love what you're doing. That's funny. Somebody in the chat. Anyhow, yeah, I think like you're doing great stuff. Do you have any questions for me? Because I'm just loving, like I love what you're doing here. Is there any way that like you think I might have some pearly words of wisdom to share with you?
I don't know. Do you just do you know anything like about comics that you could like? Because I'm trying to find a place to like post it, but I wasn't sure because I wasn't with all the different formats and like the different websites I could do it on, and I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
That's a good question. I don't really. One thing I would say is like, well, this one sketch that you have here on the left, like it's obviously in your sketchbook and stuff, but I would suggest that you, all right. Well, first, this drawing is good enough that you probably should doing it like on a single sheet of paper, and so that it's not getting messed up with the fold of the paper and whatever. And still, it's a sketchbook. I'm sure your finished stuff is even better, but not that it has to be, but it's pretty cool. So here's one thing I would suggest: Making Comics. Do you know that book by Scott McCloud?
I haven't heard of it, no.
Okay, well, so that one's a good book, and there's a lot of stuff that it seems already like you're doing naturally that you'll get from reading his book. He's an expert in the field of comics, and that's a really good book that I'm going to strongly suggest that you get. Again, it's called Making Comics, and the artist is Scott McCloud. You can get it on Amazon. You can probably get a used copy for not very much. You might even be able to pick it up at the library, but get it. It's not that much. And then another book that I'm going to recommend, and I recommended this already, like in the previous call, but it's so good, I'm just going to put it out there for you. Is a book called Blankets. It's a graphic novel, and it's by Craig Thompson, and that's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Like, it's just got my strongest recommendation. It's perfect for your age. It's like you just need to have it. So now that I've mentioned those two people, like if I were you, I would go on their Instagram and on their social media, and then I'd find out. I'd look at all the rest of the people they're following and try and pick up some. And then I'd go to comic conventions and stuff. Well, I guess you can't do that quite now, but pretty soon, to figure out answers to the question you just asked me, like where you can be posting your stuff and how to post it, and whatever, all those questions. Like, and you might even be able to write to Scott McCloud and like directly, through social media, because like that's the world we live in today, right? So yeah, do that stuff. That's what I would recommend. And as you get older, here's one way: when you write to somebody directly, do so respectfully. Don't do it like they're your friend. Respect their time, that they're professionals, announce that you're a student. If you do it in a way that demonstrates that you're just not some casual weirdo on the internet who expects that they're entitled to advice just because they're alive, and you do it in a way that's not like that, but in a way that's respectful of somebody's time. People who are professional would like to help somebody who's talented and young like yourself, and they will give you some answers if you have a few good questions. So, Erin, that's my answer.
Yeah, thank you. It's very helpful. I just I don't know where to look for things, so thank you a lot.
Yeah, sure. They're professional, they're professional artists. There's somebody actually that I know who's like right now in town. So he's like right here. But there are a lot of get online and find people that you like, and then ask them, write to them. And the good part about that is 20 people, one person out of 20 people or one person out of 50 people may actually answer you. That's a great experience because, it'll thicken your skin and make you aware that most of the world just doesn't care and doesn't have the time. And it will be up to you to suffer all the indignities of no, you're not that important, so that you can get actually to the place where you're doing something of meaning and you feel good. It's like, yeah, you ask 20 people or you ask 50 people, and one person will answer your question. Maybe. But you have to get a lot of no's. That's like fairy tale wisdom, right? You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you get a prince. So go to it. Bron Wen. Bronwyn, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hiya, Bronwyn. These are quite the characters. Tell me about them. There's so much comedy I'm seeing in them. So, what are you about? What's going on? What are your interests? What are these drawings about?
Well, the first one, I just kind of, I mean, that's not really anything special. I just kind of felt like drawing a baby because I kind of have trouble drawing like younger people or babies because that's like what I really like to do. I like to draw portraits. So I thought that I might as well practice drawing a baby. So that's what that is. And then the other two, those are like practices for a final that I was going to do because it was my cousin's birthday recently. So they're not really anything like special. It was just kind of to, like that one on the side that's like mostly like hard lines. That one's a big mess. And it was mostly just to learn like his face shape kind of, and then where things go. And then the other one, that was a little more like with like the lines and everything and shading to try and get it right. But yeah, those basically weren't even supposed to be finished. It was just to get like the idea of what I was going to do for my final, which was going to be in paint. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple of suggestions for you that you might have heard me give already in our little talk today. And I apologize because it's just the kind of thing I'd like to talk about like more, but you know, we're running out of time. So, you know, boo for all of us, but let's see if we can get something done. I'm going to suggest, I see what you're doing in the middle drawing where you're kind of mapping out the eyes and the nose, and, you know, the middle of the eye lines up with, you know, the corner of the mouth, and you're trying to figure these things out. There are a whole lot of proportional tricks about what would help you in the organization of shapes in the face and in a portrait. And if you look online or you get some books, you know, you can find a lot of that online for free. So like I was saying about the horse anatomy, it's like start with an eye and then, you know, try and figure out like what the proper anatomy is that you're actually looking at. And then see what's different about like a child eye and you know, an adolescent eye and then a teenage eye and an adult eye. Get some idea of like how the eye is actually working into the socket, the anatomy, what's the skull and the skin around it, the musculature, and then, you know, another thing is how artists that you like draw, like interpret all of that information, because that sounds like a lot. It's like, you know, the skin and the folds and the anatomy and the bone structure, just like everything. It's like, Jesus, that's a lot of work. And the way other artists have like figured out solutions to these problems, once you know a little bit about like all of those things, that will help you advance. And then lighting will also be an important part of understanding like how best to represent the human head. And not all human heads and not all faces should be lit in the same way. And that's why it's sometimes challenging to draw a baby, because babies are cute, and you have to figure out like what makes them cute. You know, it looks to me like these photos that are, I mean, the photo reference that you worked from in these drawings looks like they were either shot with a flash or with no particular attention to the lighting. And that's going to make your life actually a little bit more challenging than it has to be. If you learn a little bit about lighting, then you can actually start to do portraits that will have, you know, form, and you'll be able to like light with a particular reason to represent people in the way that you think they should be represented, including babies. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Do you have any other? Do you have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions, and that was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, look up some videos on YouTube about lighting. A lot of lighting is a lot of those videos might be geared for like photographers, and they have like a, you know, traditional kind of 3-point lighting, and you could leave one of those points out. That works for movie and theatrical kind of lighting. But you know, it's the better thing for a more traditional type of rendering of a portrait is kind of like a single light source, you know, and even from a window, a single soft light source from a window, and moving an object around in that way and tipping it in space will really help you immensely if you understand that better. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing that with me. Okay, Roger.
Yes, I think it's going to be a wrap at this point, but I can't thank you enough for coming together with us again and sharing your wisdom and your experience, giving everybody a different point of view that they're not necessarily given in their normal circumstance. So it's been of great value to have you here. So thank you so much.
Roger, I heard everything you had to say. I'm so thrilled. Your internet worked for 30 seconds. Yay.
There you go. We'll end on a high note.
Hey, you know what? Thanks so much for allowing me to do this for you. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure seeing your artwork and chatting with you. You're such wonderful, bright young minds, and I can't wait to see what you bring into the world. And you know, there's good things ahead. You're going to make the world a better place and a more beautiful place. Thank you.